Hi, this is Mariette Hartley, and you are listening to TV Confidential.
And Roberts with a reminder that Stephanie Powers will join us at the top of the hour. We hope you stay tuned for that. In the meantime, Tony Figueroa and Donna Allen are with us for another edition of This Week in TV History. Tony's segment, as always, brought to us by our friends at Story Salon, Southern California's longest-running, regularly performing live storytelling ensemble. StorySalon.com, Facebook.com/Story Salon. You can enjoy Tony's standalone podcast This Week in TV History, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find audio. This particular edition of This Week in TV History originally aired in March 2016. What do you have for us tonight?
Let's go to March 9th, 1996. Comedian George Burns died at the age of 100.
And as I recall, he barely made it to 100.
Yes. In fact, they were planning, was it going to be in London, a huge party, gala for his 100th birthday,
yeah,
and he
was
did
booked.
not make it.
He took a fall and never really recovered from that. I mean, he stayed alive.
Yeah, I think he stayed alive in order to make 100.
Yeah, I think.
But he didn't make the party.
Yeah.
No, he was out of commission at that point, and he was going for it, and he was up until that point. He was being booked. He was appearing. He was doing stuff.
There was a constant presence on television.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was constantly working. I remember a comedian said, "Nobody's going to believe that smoking's bad for you as long as George Burns is still alive."
Yeah.
And he was, it was, and like I think he had like a couple of months, but he was definitely out of commission. It is. He made it to the finish line technically, but. Right now, MeTV is showing Burns and Allen. In fact, for New Year's this year, it was a marathon of Burns and Allen and Jack Benny programs. And they did have a couple of New Year's episodes also, and Christmas episodes, so they put all of that into the mix. And it's funny to watch them now, to see, like the Burns and Allen, you could see their influences on other shows.
Well, they were one of the first shows, if I remember correctly, that broke the fourth wall on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
George Burns broke and you could see, especially like if you remember, It's Gary Shandling's show. You could see he was really stealing from George Burns. Yeah. I mean, that was an incredible...
Yeah, breaking the fourth wall, folks, that's when the actor speaks directly into the camera. And momentarily, doing away with the illusion that this is a television show.
Uh-huh. Yeah, or in the case of the George, you always acknowledge that you are watching a TV show.
Yeah.
But I think what George Burns did was...
And it kind of lets the audience in on the joke. We're winking at the audience. It's like it's kind of intimate when you think about it, because you're speaking directly to the viewers.
Yes, I have described the camera in many television shows to people outside of the industry that I like to think of the camera as a silent observer in the room, or you in the room, silently observing the action, breaking the fourth wall. The character is talking directly to you.
Exactly.
And
well put, Donna.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think especially now that cameras are smaller and more agile, you actually, if they're
built into your
laptops. Yeah, I mean, they can be very, very small, but professional cameras, let's say, are small and agile, and we have things like steady cams where there's a counterweight, and the camera operator can actually move, and the camera doesn't shake, as opposed to having giant mounting wheeled setups.
And I don't know if it's a trend, but this season I've noticed there are a lot of 2-level sets on television shows, and they utilize the second level and will take you from upstairs to downstairs. It's a set on the inside of a soundstage. You at home do not realize it's on the inside of a soundstage.
You think you're in a real place.
Yes.
Yeah. Because they can actually, of course, now you also have to factor in that your TV set is the size of your mattress in some cases, as opposed to...
Or the size of your smartphone.
Yes.
Yeah. So you are shooting for both of those things. So when you're looking at a giant screen, the detail's important. In the old days, small stuff did not register on the camera.
There's more of an attempt for high definition filming today.
And if you're going to you can follow somebody up a stairwell into a room, and it looks like you are really in a real building. And you could, but it also adds to what Donna was saying, that the camera is just that person who's part of the group, but not really contributing conversation-wise. So you can so when you're going upstairs, it looks like you're right behind somebody looking over their shoulder. You get that point of view. But when you look, going back to George Burns, when you look at some of the stuff that he was doing, the monkeys would steal from him. Same sort of thing. You're following their wacky adventure. At some point, Mickey usually would acknowledge, oh, it's a TV show. Like they're trying to do like a Cyrano de Bergerac storyline to get Peter to talk to this girl. Well, what do you think she's doing? Well, she's probably just at home watching TV. What do you think she's watching? Well, hopefully our show. And then a little look to the camera. But George Burns did something. I mean, if you look at some of the episodes now, you're going, oh, this is brilliant. Sometimes things were playing out in a different room in the house. And George is talking to the audience and say, gee, I wonder what's going on. I mean, you're watching the show, and he walks over to his TV set. He turns on his show. And he's, that's how he's eavesdropping on a conversation that his son Ronnie is having with Gracie in the kitchen. So he's up to speed, so he knows exactly what's going on. So he's the only character who is as much in the loop as the audience is in the storyline. I imagine the writers probably found that very liberating. It's like, well, how do we solve this? Well, we're going to do this. George is just going to turn on the TV, and we'll find out from there. Like I said, Gary Shandling would do stuff like that, but I thought this stuff was brilliantly funny. Then you add the comedic timing and just style of Gracie Allen, who is playing the Gracie character, and George gets to play off, but every character got to play off of that Gracie character. Larry Von Zell was the announcer, Ronnie Burns, their son. Everyone got to work off of that. Gracie was only in, her head was always in Gracie land. And to see all these other people basically doing the role of George, and sometimes George is talking to the audience. And George will just dissect. I mean, you're not supposed to dissect a joke. The story about it's like a frog. If you take it apart, you kill it. George could actually get away with dissecting the joke, or what his role as a straight man is. I remember that in an early episode. He basically said, this is my job, and he showed all of his gestures with the cigar, reacting to Gracie, who's not there. But just the nods and the double takes and the tilting of the head and just the normal reaction. And he broke it all down. That's basically what I do. It's just, that I am sure there are a dozen different rules saying this is exactly what you don't do, explaining how all of this works. The number one rule meaning is the audience doesn't want to know that. They don't, they don't want to see the sausage being made. And he would do all of that. I mean, it was very, very funny.
Yeah, but I would say the vast audience didn't want to know that, but a certain amount of the audience probably did, because there are people who were watching this show, watching the show back then, who were thinking, how can I write for television? What can I do so that I can write something like this?
And comedic acting, comedic writing, very precise.
Yeah. And, well, it's precise in one way. I mean, set up, punchline, things like that. But at the same time, when you're doing that show and you have a live audience, as brilliant as your material is, if that audience isn't laughing, you got to do it again.
You got to, you'll rework the script between the afternoon taping and the evening taping to fix what wasn't working.
Yeah, if on the medical drama you're going to pull the plug on Grandma, there's only really one way you can do that. And either the performances and the writing is there, or it's not there.
And you don't have to worry about a studio audience.
Yeah, it's it's a different animal.
Yeah.
So that's, that's part of it. But, the great thing is we could see the work that we have. I mean, we really were not around when George Burns and Gracie Allen were an item.
But because they were still being shown in syndication up until the early 70s, and again, they became early staples of early cable shows in the 80s. I mean, they're in that respect, their work continues to live on to the next generation.
Oh yeah, definitely, and just the teaming. Later on, Stiller and Mira, and can you imagine that? There's a team that predates the Bickersons and let's say Nichols and May, and so you definitely see their imprint there on that on those comedy teams as well. Also, they started in radio, so they got to perfect their craft. They are one of those success stories, Jack Benny being another, that transition from radio to television.
Without having to change the show very much.
No, exactly. There were, they tried for McGee and Molly on TV. It did not work.
They tried Fred Allen on TV.
Yeah, I was going to bring up Fred Allen. Fred Allen was brilliant on radio. I mean, Fred Allen was up there with Jack Benny. Mm-hmm. And they had, a famous feud that was part of their various radio shows. Fred Allen did not translate. And we've talked about this, with other, when the new technologies come in, there are people who embrace the new technologies. Ernie Kovacs being one of the greatest when television came in, or going back when sound came to movies, when color came to movies, all the color comes to television. There were people who embraced it, and there were people who feared it, or people who were hesitant about it. And I mean, the ones who jump in are the ones who are much more successful in that medium. And I think George Burns fearlessly jumped in, every new, and then as a solo act. And let's forget, everybody talks about Morgan Freeman as God. And he was a wonderful depiction of God, in my opinion, with Bruce Almighty and then George Burns was doing it.
He was God before Morgan Freeman.
Yeah. And, a different take, but still.
And hysterical.
Yeah.
He was God imagined by Carl Reiner.
Yeah. And people...
Because Carl Reiner, I know he directed Oh God. I don't remember whether he wrote it.
I don't remember either if he did that or not.
We can look that up.
Because there were 3 Oh God movies.
Yes, but there's only one that counts.
Yeah, agreed.
And I do think the second one, which has a lot to do with advertising, I think is still... Even though it doesn't have the same impact as the first one with John Denver, I think there is a certain morality or moral of the story that is very true to today.
Larry Gilbart wrote the first Oh God.
Okay, it was based on a novel.
Okay.
So, cool.
Okay, yeah, so you had Oh God, Book 2, and then Oh God, You Devil. But he did, he was great playing that. And at the time said, why did you decide to play God? He said, I was the only one old enough to play. And this was on the heels of also him doing the Sunshine Boys.
Yes.
With Walter Matthau.
Which was his comeback after being sort of out of the spotlight.
Yeah, and it was supposed to be a vehicle for George Burns and Jack Benny. Jack Benny had died, and so Walter Matthau came in there. And I remember when that came, that I think was our generation's real introduction to George Burns.
Yes.
But, he was always a presence.
Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back.
This portion of TV Confidential is brought to us by our friends at Front Porch Realty, the community of realtors in the Northern Bay Area of California that is committed to finding the solution that is best for their clients. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to sell or lease your property in Northern California, call Karen Strain at 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com for more information on how they can help you.
Ed Robertson thanking you for listening to the TV Confidential podcast. If you like what you hear, please hit the subscribe button so that you won't miss our next episode. Tony Figueroa and Donna Allen are with us as we discuss the influence of George Burns on TV comedy writers. George Burns passed away March 9th, 1996, 30 years ago. During this week in TV history, we'll continue our conversation with Tony and Donna later on in the program. In the meantime, we'll take a quick time out, then Stephanie Powers will join us when we come back for hour number 2 of TV Confidential. Please stay with us.